It's a simple process. It takes about 20 minutes. You'll need to have your contact information, the scope of the project, an estimate of the time frame for completion, and an estimate of the cost of the project. One of the reasons that I encourage you to submit the SEP to the Cal EPA process is that you'll be able to select the environmental issue that your SEP addresses, like water, air, hazardous waste, pesticides. When you select the type of environmental issue, Cal EPA will forward that SEP to the appropriate state agency. So if you intend for the SEP to be considered for DTSC's SEP list, you must select hazardous waste. In this way, if your SEP can address multiple types of environmental issues, you can get on multiple state agency SEP lists and increase your chance of your SEP being funded through enforcement actions. We would appreciate receiving more. We would appreciate more organizations giving us SEPs. We need SEPs throughout California, so SEPs can be funded near the communities impacted by those violations. If you are interested in getting more information about the SEPs or SEP process, please reach out to me. I'll be at the table in the back. So do you have any questions about the SEP process or SEPs? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to thank everyone. I'm Andrew being here. I have a question in regards to, I want to keep the focus to Quemetco and how this is blood money, and how do you all look at yourself in the mirror that they were trying to wash their hands clean and they put a brown face in front of us and say you're giving back. So how powerful would it be for you to deny that money and for the union workers to have a work stoppage so we can really shut down Quemetco, which is at the root of all this issue? So I would just really like for you all to just look at yourselves in the mirror. You know, like I said, my focus isn't to y'all. You know, y'all brown people, you're with us, you know, but they're using you as a brown face to wash our hands clean, and please reconsider that. And this is a whole public sham, this meeting, and the victims who were impacted by the cancerous chemicals should be centered here, should be given the platform, and this is just a way to legitimize yourself and wash your hands clean. Yeah. So shame on all of you, work stoppage, and
thank you.
Thank you. So really quickly, just trying to be mindful of just the timing again, and just really be mindful, folks, who actually allows for the space, is to actually, we'll continue with Q&A till 8. Then from there, individuals on the table, questions regarding permits. There's a lot of permits, but there's questions. There's questions. So, no. Thank you. But this is, there's a lot of individuals that actually want to actually talk to some of the folks on the table. So just be mindful, respectful. So there's, I really want to be mindful, and this is one of the things that we talked about a format. This is not, I guess, and definitely acknowledging that we were here last time in 2019. I heard 2019. So that's one of the things that we want to continue moving forward. And how do we do this in a productive way? Because there's a lot of individuals that want to do it in a community forum. I'm so happy to consider that as a group of how we move forward in different meetings, because this is not going to be the last, for sure. But with that, there's going to be different issues that people have. I do, but I also want to be mindful that this is going to, and I know no one likes an agenda, but we're going to be able to actually close Q&A at 8, and then at 8:40, and then we're going to move forward. But with that, I also want to acknowledge there's a couple of folks from the school districts that also want to actually be able to connect with some of these organizations. Okay, so I want to be respectful of those individuals too. So with that,
Andrew Zhao, thank you for coming tonight, because this is the most I've seen in a long while. I just want to say to the people in the community, can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. All right. It's very important to understand that why there's people involved. Okay. I just want to give you a little preface before the question. I lived in Avocado Heights for over 42 years. Okay. North Whittier and Avocado Heights. I said to myself, why do I get involved with this? What happened? I volunteered, and we took samplings. We talked to community members that live across from Quemetco. And I was so disheartened. People were telling me their family, their mother, their father, their sister, they were dying from these rare cancers. Now, hey, once on the street or something and say, hey, that's normal. But when you talk to other people and you feel the pain, that's why I got involved. Okay, now the question is this. DTSC had failed with Exide. It's been in the news and so forth with Exide. But I noticed at Exide, they have a community advisory group. We don't have one over here. I don't, do you anybody know about the advisory group in Hacienda Heights? No. So here you have this particular organization, admirable for the company, who made the decision to put the money over there. I mean, is it really going to the problem, or is it only going to the symptoms? Okay, you also know that DTSC, I have to give props to AQMD. They let themselves open. You know, when you look on their website, you can get their telephone numbers of the different departments we. You try with DTSC, you can't find it. Okay, these are. You want to talk to a person at DTSC because this person doing that. Guess what? You won't find it. Okay. So the other thing is, I noticed that DTSC is doing better, even though it's not as much as we want as a community. But we need advisory groups here so that people can put input into the community, not put on a long distance. I've asked several times on the DTS meeting on the phone. I never got the answers. And so that's why you see the frustration here. Like we're not getting a two-way communication. Yeah, there's no communication. I mean, here it is. After the fact. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Luis Ceballos, and I'm part of the CAC the Air Coalition. I have only two things to say about the money. Who cares about the money, right? But I do care that money should be allocated to this community. To programs to help all the students, all the schools we have around the internet. So again, I started to say organizations that the natural, so I people do the natural anytime I want, right? What to do, whatever. But I'm not going to criticize it. The only thing I say, money supposed to go to this community. Because Quemetco creates all this hassle for years for the people here, not for people out of this area. And DTS, I'm sorry, but you better, you need to have a conversation over the past, actually, about the money, but please, the next time you put some decision, focus on the harm and the damage that can let down to this community. Thank you.
I do have one question over here.
Yeah. Hello, my name is Richard Cummemore. I'm a resident in North Whittier. For the SEP organization, the organization that is environmentally involved, did you know that every single drop of that battery acid that comes out of Quemetco is dumped into the San Gabriel River, and it goes out to Seal Beach where the surfers ride? Are you guys aware of that? Are you guys aware that DTSC, when they did this soil sampling, would not scrape the walls of San Jose Creek right behind their facilities? You can just see the crud build up there. All the acids, probably lead. DTSC would not scrape that wall as part of their investigation. When they did the soil sampling, they had an agreement with Quemetco and let them call the shots on how they wanted it tested. Who is the organization that is supposed to enforce the laws? What laws? What procedures. Now this VSP score, it's a new scoring system. As I understand, whatever score they have, if you go in and inspect more, it brings the score down. I didn't eliminate anything. You guys just brought the scores down. Now, what is that? I don't understand. Can somebody tell me?
Do you have an answer? But you're the expert.
We have the VSP.
So yes, you're correct. The current methodology is that when you take the number of violations and you consider how egregious they are, you do divide it by the number of inspections, and that does in fact always score. We've received a lot of input about that. We're deliberating about it. We understand the concerns about it.
Yeah.
What kind of
We want
I just
answers.
wanted to clarify that yes, your understanding is correct.
Unacceptable. Not okay.
The more they violate, the more you respect, and the more you lower their scores so they qualify to keep doing the same thing to us. And the teacher employees over and over and over. Shame on you.
Shame on you. Shame.
I had a question about DTSC keeps talking about this $2.3 million, 1.15 to the SEPs, so those supplemental projects, and then 1.15 to DTSC to clean up other communities. So that's a total of $2.3 million. And that's a means of holding Quemetco accountable. But when I look at page 11 of the settlement agreement, on page 11 it says, in recognition of the benefits of the projects in protecting public health and the environment, DTSC has suspended Quemetco's obligation to pay $1.15 million of the penalty. So as I understand it, as long as Quemetco pays $1.15 million for these projects, Quemetco will have to pay $0 to DTSC to clean up the community. And my question is it honest to keep telling this community about how accountable you're holding Quemetco when you're not even honest about the amount of money, how small and insignificant it is, that's going to be taken from Quemetco?
Maria?
Thank you for that feedback. The penalty is $2.3 million. Quemetco will still pay $1.15 million penalties. That's clear. They still have to pay that. The offset is for the additional $1.15 million going to the subs. If Quemetco does not pay that money, they have to pay that to the state. So rather than having that $1.15 million going to the state, we want it to go back into the communities, but they have to pay it. So there's no forgiveness in the sense of they don't have to pay anything. They still have to pay $2.3 million. Does that help clarify?
That's not enough.
Not enough. Not enough. Not enough. Not enough. Not enough. Not enough. Not enough.
Yeah, so my name is Avocado. I'm from La Puente, the city of La Puente, neighborhood in Hacienda Heights. And I really want to commend you and thank you for coming here, but you're late. Like, you should have done this before, right? Now you're just trying to get credibility to the settlement that lacks absolute credibility. It lacks zero. It doesn't have credibility. So I don't know what my sentiment getting here is that this settlement shouldn't happen. So why are you moving with this settlement in the first place? That's my first question. Yeah, and I want to go back to the enforcement director's point that Quemetco's admission of violations in the settlement is important. With all due respect, ma'am, they are useless when this company has repeatedly committed violations and yet they remain in business. So they are committing violations right now, 2 of them, she said, and they are still running. Why? That's my second question. I say shut them down. They cannot comply fines for years. What are you waiting for, Director? This is my question to you. Why haven't you shut them down yet? After years of them violating. Why not? That question is directed to you. That's the fourth question. You know, this past election cycle, November, I ran for office. Don't ask me how that went. It's not fun. But I met a lot of community members, and they are tired of government. And this is why. This is a prime example of why they are disgusted with elected officials and governmental agencies that are supposed to work for the interests of people, but instead are for the interests of multi-billion-dollar companies. In short, my questions really are, why are you not protecting the interests of working class people? That's the fifth question. So I hope that you can answer them. Thank you.
People over profit! Shut them down!
Yeah, so the first one was on the admissions part. So why is it that you think that this is such an important thing when they've already previously violated?
So admissions is important because if our inspectors go out there again and they find violations, the same violations that we cited them for this case, we now have a much stronger case to go before the court.
Man, you've had a strong case for a long time.
Yes.
Why are you giving them another chance?
We're not.
Yes,
We're
you
not
are.
going to give any chances. We're still going to go out there. We are going to inspect. We will cite violations. And
Ma'am, is it correct that they are violating 2 of the violations right now?
they are not in compliance because they need
So they are running and they are not in
They need
compliance?
the appropriate authorization to.
I understand. I'm asking you a simple question. They are not compliant and they are running right now. Can you answer that? Yes or no?
Excuse me.
Yes or no?
If I may interject.
Answer his question!
It's a question.
I understand
Give
that's
me-
your question,
okay.
but we have, as a department, have given them a timeline in which to come in.
Okay, so that's a yes. They're non-compliant, yet you are allowing them to
That is
operate.
correct.
Okay.
When will it expire?
My other question was, where's the director?
2015.
I
Expired
just want to make
permit.
clear that this is not a debate that we're holding here tonight.
Oh, this is not a debate, it's a question, it's a set of questions. I understand that you're the congressperson, so without due respect, you can give her the mic. My other question was on why this settlement was allowed to proceed forward, and why the community was not involved before. Now you're bringing the settlement after the fact to bring credibility.
I understand your concern about the settlement process, and I will just say that this is not the first time we've had concerns about how settlements are conducted. It's a very common practice. It's unfortunate. That's the way our legal system is set up. There is not an easy way to go through a settlement process in a public way. Nevertheless, I hear the concern. We have to take this back. We have to think about it. There are other enforcement cases, maybe not in this community, but there are some lessons to be learned from this before we enter into settlement agreements, settlement discussions. What can we do to engage the community? I think there is a question to be asked here. This is settled. This is settled.
Too late.
I understand. This is after the fact.
Which one of these things you asked about?
Let's just be mindful of time. Again, it's 7:43, so definitely there's a couple of folks that still want to ask their questions, so just be mindful of those folks.
Good evening. My name is Oscar Pinto. I'm here representing Avocado Heights Vaqueros. And my question is simple. I'm under the knowledge that this company has applied to expand their operations, even though they're not in compliance. Does this settlement now pave the way for them to expand their operations?
So I want to be clear. We have a permit application that we're considering now, and it does not cover any expansion of Quemetco's operations. The Air District considered the potential for them to expand their operations. The department has not. Excuse me, I'm responding to the gentleman. And we do not have before us any consideration of expansion of their operations.
No, but what the gentleman is saying, that's considered expansion under the subdivision permit. So there's permits happening with different agencies. And this is something that there's a couple elected officials here that we can work with to actually have South Coast talk about that specific issue. Yeah, so let's just So the request is to have a meeting with DTSC and South Coast, right? Okay, that's a request. Okay. No, duly noted, and I think there's enough individuals, and I'm looking at most of my elected official folks here. Why not? Let's make it, into a multi-agency. So that's something that we can put the request. We can't force anybody to come. Okay. We work with the USCPA, but we don't report here. Okay? So, do you want to?
Hello, everybody. My name is Nayeli Diaz. I am a representative of the community. I live in La Puente, the unincorporated area. I live next to Hacienda High School. And I just want to ask a question, not just to Quemetco, but to our council representatives, first school board supervisors. How will Quemetco remain accountable if they're going to continue to pour money into our schools? Are you still going to continue to accept money to fund your STEM programs? Because that is another way that they are still going to continue to operate, and we need to pull them out. Fully out of our community. Not just assessments that go into other programs, but we need to pull them out of our schools as well. They cannot continue to fund our science and engineering programs any longer.
Hacienda Heights School Board refused the donation from Quemetco.
Right.
Dirty money. Accept money from them. And how are we going to continue to fund this? How are we going to continue these programs? How is our future generation going to continue to be educated by these people who have contaminated and put toxic pollutants on our soil and our community that our children are inhaling? They're exposed to all these substances. How are we going to keep them accountable?
Shut them down!
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 Period.
Hello? Hello, everybody. My name is Stephanie. My name is Stephanie Serrano, and I have the honor of being on the Board of Education for
Woo!
I'd like to start by honoring this land. This is Tonga land. And
Woo!
as to how we're being stewards of this land. I'd like to honor all the families that have lost someone to cancer, to this rare form of cancer that is caused by chemicals that only Quemetco emits. And I would like to honor the families that are fighting for their lives right now. There's so much to say about this, and so I'm going to try to get to the point because I respect everybody's time. But I would like to, before I start, say that shame on the Teamsters. I have a lot of respect for the Teamsters. I'm a Teamsters family, Local 396. And to see you all not taking a stand to protect your own team members is sad, because you're the strongest union in the United States. Our LA County Supervisor, Hilda Solis's father was a Teamster at Quemetco. He died from lead poisoning. Please do the right thing. Take a stand for your team members. I would like to say that within our community, we have 22 schools that are within the 2-mile radius that is being directly poisoned by Quemetco. And yes, it's from Quemetco because they're releasing specific chemicals that can be tracked. And I am proud to say that since I've been on the Board of Education for the past 2 years, we stopped accepting your dirty money.
Yes!
Why just now? 2 years ago. Why now? Our previous board did not care about this. One of our board members told me that is not our problem. It is our problem. As a school district, this is our problem because we are one of the largest stakeholders that are being impacted by this. And not just as a stakeholder or property owners, our children are being exposed to poisons that can be traced to Quemetco. Our employees and staff members are. So I'm glad that we have this lawsuit that DTSC has taken a stand, but this does not suffice. 1.5 million is not enough. We need to test all of our 22 school sites, and Quemetco needs to pay for it. And once they find the lead that is tied to their plant, they need to remediate it, not the district, not our taxpayers.
Yes, that's right.
And so I appreciate the organizations that are going to be working in partnership to have reactive approaches in addressing this, but they're reactive. Because asking us to volunteer our time in soil testing is offensive. We're all here volunteering, people are being paid. Asking us to continue to invest our manpower, our hours to go out and soil test, that is offensive. That is somebody's job, pay them. Secondary, having people come into our schools and screen our children, great, thank you. But once you start finding lead in their systems that can be traced back to Quemetco, who's liable to take care of those children? It's not our district, it's Quemetco. And everybody that's giving them the green light to poison our children.
DTSC.
And so that is a reactive approach. It does not suffice because more children will be going to their health centers to keep learning that they're exposed to these toxins. And so do the right thing. Take a stand. We're all grown-ups, we're all brilliant. We need to protect the next generation. And so this intervention does not suffice. We demand that you test all of our 22 school sites and our community members that don't have a district power and voice. Their voice matters too, as single occupancy homes and taxpayers. Not only is it not enough, we need to test our soils and remediate it. Quemetco needs to do that. And secondary, no level of lead is okay.
Woo!
That is the only recycling plant for batteries west of the Mississippi. So we know that California is super green, and so we have all these battery powered cars. Where are they going? To our community. Never in the greening efforts did we say save our air, poison our children. Never. Okay? And guess what? In 2025, now we want all the cars to be battery powered. What is going to happen? This is only going to increase. I'm not as smart as some of you people here. Do the right thing, because when you're not doing the right thing, you're negligence. You're disrespecting our community, and you better be prepared for a fight.
That's right. Woo!
My name is Laura Santos. I'm a college board member at Mount San Antonio College.
Woo!
And I live in Bassett. So my question is, I want to know the actual status of this settlement. Have both parties signed? Has the court approved it? And I also want to know when the next court hearing is. I want to know the courtroom. I want to know the courthouse. I want to know the date, the time, if you have the judges. I want that also. And then my comment is, Nature for All is a fabulous, it's a wonderful organization. I've been through training, the leadership trainings, a couple of trainings. It's a fabulous organization.
Yeah.
But when my soil was tested, it had lead and arsenic in it. And I'm a Nature for All steward. I do not support the settlement and the SCP. I do not support it, even though I'm with Nature for All. Berlin, where's Berlin? Our children's health, you're going to sell it for $500,000? No, that's not right. It's not right. So, to the agency, you're supposed to be shutting Quemetco down. They closed Exide. What's the difference? You need to close it down.
Shut it down.
Shut it down.
You know, it's our community. It's our children.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rebecca, and as a teacher, my concern is for our children. As said before, this fine is a slap on the wrist. Your settlement ignores the elephants in the community, the elephant being a toxic battery recycling facility with over 20 schools in a 2-mile radius. Toxins that cause serious health concerns, especially in children, including cancer and behavioral and developmental issues. How many of you from DTSC here have children? Those of you who are here with DTSC, how many of you have children? Would you move your children into a 2-mile radius of Quemetco?
Hell
no.
no. Hell no.
I don't see any heads nodding yes, right? Then why do it to us? Why do it to this community, exactly? Is it really ever safe to have a facility of this kind in a neighborhood? No. Accidents, spills, violations that don't get settled fast enough, or ever at all, as we're seeing. Violations have been escalating and are not being resolved. This was a nice presentation, but what you're saying has not been done thus far. Are they really learning their lesson if their violations just continue? When is enough enough? And how many chances do they get when they violate over and over again? My other question is, where are the soil sample results? Yep. You did soil sample results. Where are they? They should have been displayed today. Where are those results?
Where are the soil samples? Where are the results?
I would like an answer to those questions.
Transparency.
Transparency.
We would love to provide there's a lot of questions regarding the permit. There's a lot of questions regarding soil samples, and this is where we would love to actually get the groups who are providing those answers actually go into the second segment. And also on the permitting, I can say this is not the first, you have heard this again, but if we're going to do anything moving forward, it's going to be having more meetings like this for sure. And that's something that, we can actually have the director indicate that a little bit more, but there's going to be so much activity happening. It's really trying to be mindful, how can we be respectful of your time? Because also, like you said, meetings for sake of meetings is not helpful if there's not really having any type of outcome. Okay. That's what this is not, it was really clear what this meeting was about.
Not really.
Can
I,
Deanna?
Okay. Deanna, can I? Yeah. So, clearly, you're interested in soil samples. The folks in the back can talk to you a bit about what's happened with the sampling. No, I'm sorry, ma'am. We were not prepared to give a presentation. We need to come back. We need to talk to you. We need to make sure there's adequate time to get into the details of the sampling, to answer your questions. Tonight, we cannot do that.
You had 2 weeks, 2 months to prepare for this meeting. We had 2 weeks notice. Where's the justice?
We understand. We will plan in more advance.
Transparency.
We are not. They do not have the answers tonight. They do not come prepared to speak to them. So we are coming back. We are coming back. I understand. I do understand. You absolutely have my commitment. And I do want to say something about the department, if I may. The department has a new board called the Board of Environmental Safety. And we go before them, we make our commitments, we talk to them, and made a presentation.
Think about what we should do about the environmental safety.
And what we said was we need to show up. And we know we need to show up more. We know we need to understand, we need to explore what are the options for there to be an advisory board for this community. We need to make sure that we're giving you the information you're looking for. We need to make sure we're understanding what
Let's form a committee to determine.
The
Board of Environmental Safety. Let's form a committee
these
to
are
determine.
conversations we need to have. We need to figure out from you what's the best way to have those conversations. We'll have them in person, but we want to structure them in a way where
there's going to be frustration, there's going to be energy. It's important. People's lives are being affected. People have cancer in their family. We expect energy. We know it's gonna be there. But we also want to make sure we're giving adequate room to have the real conversation.
Ma'am,
so I just want
with all due respect, where is the soil sampling? When are you going to release the soil sampling results?
Again, we will follow up on that. There will be a subsequent meeting that talks about permitting, that talks about soil sampling. We have a lot of ground to cover. That's why we at least brought some.
What's the holdup of the data?
There's the holdup of the data. It's beyond the scope of tonight's meeting. Okay. So
can you make it publicly available online?
We are a public agency, and we make public results. We make results public, and that's my commitment to you, is that we will do that. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. So I can't thank you all enough for coming tonight, for bringing your energy, for bringing your concerns.
There's more questions. Answer their questions.
We are hearing people say they want to hear about the sampling, for instance. And if that's the case, the only way to do that.
Everyone does.
If that's the case, the only way we're prepared to do that tonight is to allow people to talk.
They have questions. Everyone wants to know.
Okay. So at this point, we're going to have to limit the time on the questions and the statements to. Can somebody take time, please? We will give 3 minutes per statement. That's the best we can do.
Thanks. I have a question about enforcement, but you brought up the the new Board of Safety, right? I've been hearing from environmental activists and impacted communities too that while it's good to have an environmental review board, there really still is no public decision-making role. So we're still kind of left out, and that's something that doesn't sit right with a lot of people. But as to my question, I'm glad that the requirements for like conditional acceptance and acceptance were listed up there. But something kind of stood out to me in that Quemetco being conditionally accepted, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Right, one of the conditions was that you can reduce the timeline for the permit, right? If they have more than 40 violations or whatever it is. Yet, Quemetco has been operating without a permit for 8 years, right? So what does that say about the enforcement and the actual power that the DTSC has if one of the ways to hold facilities accountable is to narrow the window, yet there's 25% of the facilities in California are operating without a permit. So it's like, this is all superficial power, because it never really has the ability to enforce. So my question is, how can we trust the DTSC, that the DTSC can actually enforce all of these regulations in the future?
Yes!
I will just say, ESP is one tool that we have. We have other tools to shorten permit times if we grant permits in the cases that we do. I do want to correct you on your numbers. There are not 25%. We worked really hard to make decisions on a great number of those old permits. And our motivation to do that is so that we actually can enforce better, so that we can inspect better, and so that we can hold those facilities accountable better. And so we do have 6 permits that are very old out of the 70 plus in the state. And we're working really hard to get through those permits. So I appreciate your concern. And we are using our authorities to shorten permit timelines, so that they're not 10-year permits, they're 5-year permits, and to take advantage of the authority we have.
Awesome. So with that, it seems that folks are going to the tables, which is fine, but I know there's a couple questions, so we can actually, if you want to do a question statement, and what we're going to do is actually, if we can flag the actual table so people can actually know where to go with your specific question. So with that, and I'll go with you. So if we can have the permitting table, raise your hand. So that's the permitting folks. So if you have any permitting question, timeline, deadline, please go to those 4 individuals. In regards to cleanup, Todd, if you can raise your hand. That's the cleanup table, that's the soil samples. I heard a couple of questions regarding soil samples, examples, and then enforcement. We're gonna have the lovely ladies who were up here actually talk about the SIBs and the process of actually getting SIBs. And then you have the both organizations here. Also, we have full tables regarding Department of Public Health. If you have any questions there, and also Supervisor Solis's staff is here. So with that.
Yeah, just to preface, something I noticed wasn't asked right off the bat, and I think it's very important if we are to do community outreach. It's a simple question to the community of who thinks that lead smelters have no business near our children and our communities. Specifically, who thinks Quemetco should be shut down? So when I hear that there's another fine for violations, I think Sadama put it greatly that any amount of lead is too much on top of the other chemicals that are poisoning us. But in this context, 2.5 million isn't a fine. It's a fee to be allowed to poison us. The way I get to enjoy certain leisures or stuff, I pay to be able to get to do things. Quemetco pays 2.5 million to get to poison our kids and our families. So 2.5 million shouldn't be something to boast about, to be used to boost your careers, to put on your resume to say you did a good job holding people accountable. It's a testament that you are committed to Quemetco being able to continue business as usual. Common sense tells me that the DTSC isn't here to prevent us from being poisoned, rather to be able to, give face and PR and say that we are doing something when, in fact, you're handling the business affairs of a big business. You're not here to handle the affairs of working class people.
Yay!
Woo!
Hi. The folks who are in the back answering questions, I'm wondering if there's a way that, we could all have you join us. No, we can't do that. That's
not we all want answers. We all want the same answers.
Let's rethink the format next time. Great. So, question about the settlement. The VSP scoring procedure was not part of the original 29 violations complaint that the California Attorney General filed against Quemetco. And yet, the VSP scores sort of suddenly appeared like a surprise in the settlement. They had nothing to do with the 29 violations. They were not specified in that earlier complaint, and yet they managed to get into the settlement. And my question is, why would DTSC allow Quemetco to reduce its violation score as part of the settlement when there's already a separate process in place at the agency for Quemetco to dispute those scores? And in fact, Quemetco is going through that dispute process right now, and it continues to do that, to dispute the score. So how do you include that process and actually get them to lower their scores when that has nothing to do with the original violations?
So as part of the settlement process, each of those 29 violations was evaluated, and some of them stood and some of them did not stand, and they were changed as a result of the settlement. For instance, there were cases where we had to change the violations from a class 1 violation to a class 2 violation. So that then becomes the official record upon which VSP scores are based. So
why would you do that? Because you already had inspectors go in and make a determination about the class of the violation, which puts Quemetco in a very bad position, and now you let them basically run around the process and do something completely different.
Well, I did explain to you how we did it. That's the answer now we got where we are.
We also done violation 1, it's also violation 2s are also included, right? So it's trace values, it's not just violation.
We're going to need another workshop on the VSP, I think.
Yes, we will have another thing.
And I think it's really important for folks to know that, here's another question. How long has DTSC known that the groundwater monitoring wells were not functional and were not able to detect leaks coming out of the facility and going into the aquifer? For how many years?
That's a good question. I can't answer it. I don't know if, do you? Yeah. We should.
Okay, and I have another question.
That's a legitimate question that we should have an answer for.
Yeah, and for how many years
Long
did
time.
DTSC know that the containment
These are all
building
legitimate
had a
questions.
non-functioning leak detection system, and in fact had a hole? There was a hole cut into the floor of the containment building. For how many years did DTSC know about those massive violations that allowed for leaks into the soil and the groundwater? Just a number. How many years?
I honestly, I don't want to give you a number that's wrong.
For how many years did DTSC know that a groundwater monitoring? Well, one more. I have another question.
But you didn't answer her question.
For how many years did DTSC know that groundwater monitoring wells were using 1980s technology? How long? How long did you know this? And why are these still ongoing violations that continue to be unresolved? And they're still allowed to operate?
How long did you know?
So with that, we'll love to get those questions.
How long did you know?
Again, we'll love to get those questions because those questions are going to eventually feed. Because I already
Do your
heard
job.
there's a BSP, so we're trying. We're trying. Okay. No, we're trying. So BSP workshop, and then also there's specific questions. We'll love to get that, Rebecca, from you if we can. In addition to that, this is where we're going to actually go into the, I don't know if the individuals, there's additional, okay. We're going to actually start, because there's folks actually, to actually just be mindful of your time too, but also we have about 30 minutes for the Q&A for the rest of it. Okay?
Answer the questions they waited.
Yeah. No, we don't. I'm just saying, we have 30 minutes.
Tiana, can you just go ahead and take advantage of the time?
So my name is Ruben. I'm from Bonta, California. So I do have a question. How do you guys determine? I do live just outside the 2-mile radius. So how did they determine the 2-mile radius? Why not? Because obviously air, the pollutants and all that, that's going to go further than the 2-mile radius. So how do you guys determine that? And in my opinion, keeping this open and affecting people and the people who live outside the 2-mile radius, they do business near Quemetco, near the area. There's a lot of businesses, right? And so people who don't live in the area, but they're exposed to those chemicals. So in my opinion, if we don't close it down, I think it is, in my opinion, environmental racism because it is in a low-income community like Puente, 80% Latino. And, you know, if this were Quemetco was in Beverly Hills, they would definitely shut it down. Or wealthy areas, or, you know, so that's my question. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think the question of the 2-mile radius, again, we will come back and be able to see into that when we're talking about sampling, when we're talking about some of the other studies. You know, we'll talk about the modeling that was used, about how the air moved, what the air wind directions were that led to the 2 miles.
My concerns are with the nonprofit that was given the contract to do the education. My concern has to do with the nonprofit that will be allowed to do the educational component in dealing with medical services on the campus. That the services are not going to be dealing with exposure, and my concern of privatization by using a nonprofit coming in, using public space, and public-private partnerships is a concern.
I live like 4 miles away.
Very careful when you have outside entities coming in and not focusing specifically on our health concerns. It's important to have health education, but it's separate when you have, it's open and there's going to take public space, and we don't want funds that could have gone to our nurses that we already have, or austerity measures where the nonprofits come in and bring social workers at a lesser pay, non-union. These are very important issues.
Yeah. So I'm going to encourage you. That's a concern that warrants attention, definitely. But I would encourage you to talk to your local school district and to your elected officials can express that concern.
Because they do a great job listening to us.
It is for us to consider. I hear you over
there. All right, I've got two questions I'd like to ask about the settlement. The first is, how did you calculate the penalties that you assessed against Quemetco? It's my understanding that...
I want to make sure Maria hears her question. Yeah, go ahead. Angela, if you could start again.
Yeah, sorry. I have a question about the penalties. I'm wondering how you calculated the amount of penalty you assessed. And I'll just preface that by saying my belief is that the statute allows penalties in the amount of $25,000 per day per penalty for continuing violations, or $25,000.
You're going to do it outside or what? I don't know. It's up to them. Meeting her place outside. I'm not sure.
And then subsequently $70,000. We have some penalties, some violations that Quemetco admitted to that were continuing violations that went on for years. And so I'm just trying to understand a little bit about how you came up with the numbers that you reached.
Sure, that's a good question. We actually use the $25,000 per day per violation matrix. We were not able to use the $70,000 because that came into effect after the violations were found. But in terms of determining the penalties, there's quite a bit that went into the calculations. You have to consider the potential for harm, the extent of deviation, and other mitigating factors as well, which I'm not prepared to talk about today, but I'm more than happy to have a conversation with you on that and provide you with the details related to the calculations. And so is that something that you would be amenable to?
Yeah, I would like to have that, and I'll just note that y'all set up this conversation to talk about the settlement. I think it's a fundamental component of the settlement, how much money y'all settled for. And I'll just tell you that we did a rough take on the penalties that might have been assessed, even using your regulations compared to what's in the statute. And it seems like that number is more like $100 million than it is $2 million. And so I'm very interested in understanding how you came up with that number. And I'm very interested in DTSC being transparent with the community about how you came up with that number. And I have a second question. So you talked about the BSP scoring and how BSP works, and we've already heard here today about the fatal flaw in BSP that essentially means the more you inspect, the lower the score goes. But I just want to note that I think, as I heard your presentation, you stressed that Quemetco wasn't changing scores. And so I just want to know that the cutoff is 40. Before the settlement, they were at 39.33, and now they're not. And they still have one of the highest violation scores in the entire state. And so I want to understand a little bit about this issue that somehow admitting that they are serial polluters, and they have one of the worst enforcement histories in the state. How we are supposed to think about the role of the BSP score in your overall enforcement. That's a really good input that I do want to have the opportunity to talk to you more about that. You make the points, absolutely. And as we draft up the regulations, that's something that we need to if we have
Should have been first.
a team that is doing that for us. That is something that I will take back to you. We've raised this before. I'm just going to finish with a comment. So, decide, announce, and defend is a well-known strategy, which we see operating here today, where a decision maker decides what they want to do, they announce what they've done. They come to a board like this to defend what they've done. That model is fatal as well. It is always easier to not do the bad thing in advance and to try to recover from it than it is to make the bad decision and then try to recover from it. Right? It's a deterioration of trust. It's a breakdown. It's further breakdown on top of past breakdown. And so while I understand y'all graciously saying that you're happy to come back and you want to talk about this, and I appreciate that, and I'm sure we'll be in dialogue. But I just want to be clear that this repeating process that this community has been through with DTSC is the reason why when you come here, people stand in the audience and they yell at you. It's not because of this meeting in particular, or this meeting in particular was problematic, but it's because of the 3 decades we've been doing this. So I guess I want to remain hopeful that there's an opportunity to DTSC take steps that need to take on here and earn the trust of the community. I'll admit that I'm skeptical, in part because I've just seen the same behavior over and over again. And at some point, as Maya Angelou so eloquently reminded us, when people tell you who they are, you should know. And I'm sorry to say that I think that the way this went down today was DTSC reminding us about who we are. So I'm hoping we're better. I recognize that.
All right, yeah.
We're wrapping up, and
One person. Last one. Give it to him, Karen.
Oh, I'd like to thank the coalition and all the other because I've lived here. I was born in 1969 when it wasn't built. And I had a brother that worked there. And he used to come home complaining about how they didn't give him the right filters, they wanted to put torn ones. This was back in the 80s, shamefully to say. And I always got the vibes and said, oh, it's just going to continue. So I do think everyone that's done this, my question is, what if there's a huge earthquake? Is that building earthquake safe? Or are we all going to be exploding with it if something like in Turkey happens to us?
Yeah.
I will say the specter has happened. There is a specter of what risks are we living with. Our permits do require seismic, a certain level of seismic security. I can't speak to the specifics of the Quemetco's, but it is one of the things that we look at very carefully when we make a permit decision.
I live on Proctor, myself, very close to it. It worries me. The other thing is these steps don't make any sense to me. If I want to go to the mountains, I'll drive myself to the mountains. If I want to get leadership meeting, I'll go to my school district. I work with the HLP-USD. That don't make any sense as how that's helping our community directly. And then if you're going to bring a health center, bring it for everybody. I don't have kids at home anymore. They're grown. I would like to see something for the elders living in our area, having easy access to help.
I would only ask you to seriously consider finding ways to get in our sub queue so that if there are
I don't have anything to bring.
we have to work through organizations. And if there are organizations that you
So explain to me how Nature for All helps us.
I think the best people to ask are the staffers because they have vision. And I want to. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm so proud of all of us. We did great.